Thank you for joining and welcome to another edition, a lockdown edition of Love Your Business. I'm so thankful that you could join us. I'm joined with very special guests, Samantha Cook, Stuart Cook, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, more than welcome.
So we met in the alleys of WeWork, the hustle and bustle, and we obviously can't do that now. But just before we get to your businesses and business that we're going to be delving into specifically, what are your thoughts on the WeWork background and co-working? Pros, cons, or you for it, against it? What are you thinking, Eve?
I think from a networking perspective, like the opportunity to meet yourself and other people within the building is really great from that perspective. You get to be able to learn a little bit about other people, cross-pollinate, potentially lead to new leads itself. But then sometimes for me, I find personally when I'm in an open working space that it's a bit of a distraction. So I actually have to spend some time blocking in my calendar deep work where I'll go into one of the little rooms and just focus for myself.
I'm pretty sure I've seen, like, I was walking up to Stu and he turned around and kind of went the other way, just like when he saw that I was coming, he didn't want to get stuck in a half-hour convo. Is that similar to your experience?
Yeah, it is sometimes. I mean, that is one of the good and the bad things about WeWork is, I mean, you also have got so many cool startups with doing interesting things. You always want to find out what they're up to and ways to collaborate, but you also have to get on with your work as well. So and apologies for some of the random distractions that I'm always throwing away. Now, I did some LinkedIn deep diving on you two, and it was one of the more intimidating dives that I've done. It made me want to go update mine, maybe just throw in some things that aren't true, just to kind of beef it up a little bit. But so Sam, just going through, I just nitpicked, like, this is not chronological or anything. And I was like, you got the former CEO of One Disease at a Time, you're a partner at Twy Capital, which Stu is as well, ambassador at Formula E Racing. Then I went to Google and I was like, what's Formula E Racing? Looks like the coolest thing I've ever seen. Then I'm like, all right, well, like that's a pretty cool life. And then look at Stu, former CEO of Zambrero, where I've eaten probably today, and then is non-executive director at the Entourage, chairman at Fitstop, and the list goes on. And I think at a very rough count, you're both managing, say, around 10 businesses, or actively, not actively. How is that all for you?
I think between both of us, we are workaholics in some ways. But I feel quite fortunate in the fact that my business partner, who is my life partner, has the same end goal as me, and we have the same value set. So the time and the effort that we're putting into things for us now is setting up this amazing foundation for our future. And to kind of be your partner in crime with that is pretty awesome.
Yeah. And I think also one of the things that Sam and I pride ourselves on is putting in place or partnering with amazing people. Like, there's not a single business that we've been a part of that doesn't have somebody else right there in the trenches with us. Twy Capital with the managing partners, Ryan Barnes, who is absolutely crushing it, an amazing leader. Fitstop, we've come in as an investor, and the founder, Peter Hull, is a great CEO. The Entourage, we've been an investor there for just over a decade now. And, first it was Jack Delos as the CEO and now Tim Morris as the helm. So, it's a board meeting every 2 months with that one. So we're not managing it, but it's been an amazing investment for us. And so I think that's been one of the things to our success that we're fine to share in a bigger pie rather than just control and own 100% of something small.
We're nothing without our teams.
Yeah.
We may have a vision for something, but it's a team that helps us coordinate and bring everything and make it come to life.
I've met a few of them. I've met Ryan. I got the lovely pleasure of meeting Zoe over email and everything. And I think it seems like everyone that I encounter in your circles is similarly aligned when you're talking about, values and things like that. It is great that you do have that and that alignment. So we're now moving on to the reason why we're doing this interview, and as the title of the show, Love Your Business. When I saw the name on the door, and I was like, I need to look that up because it looked interesting. It looked like something I wanted to find out more about. So can you please tell me a little bit about Flave for the benefit of everyone listening?
So I'll take lead on this one. So Flave is essentially a global restaurant chain that we've decided to launch here in Australia, starting in Bondi. And essentially our focus is on plant-based food and making it taste so damn good that you never feel like you're missing out on something.
Yeah.
I would say that's the crux of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I would say to the viewers, and I'll put the website down the bottom, do not go there when you're hungry. So I think like the splash image is this like amazing burger, and I was starving because I my first meal was at like 12 and I accidentally went on like 11 a.m. and I'm like, so I'm already starving, and then there's a splash page and there's this burger and it's juicy and it's brilliant, and so it looks amazing. So when I kept going through the website, this is ages ago actually, not just to research for this interview, but I noticed that there was a big alignment between yourself, and it's funny that you already touched on it, but basically the alignment between your core values, what you both individually do in your day-to-day, and the business itself. Was that intentional? Like, it's chicken or the egg? Like, tell me a little bit about that alignment.
Yeah, 100%. This whole idea, this whole vision, this whole concept stems from our value set, and both Stuart and I have been incredibly fortunate to have traveled, a lot around the world, seen some beautiful landscapes, and pretty much off the back of that, as well as a very unique health scare that I had, I was airlifted to hospital, and essentially I was pretty much forced to experiment with my diet because I had a severe bacterial infection, which left my gut health not too good off the back of that. So I was forced under doctor's orders really to adopt a plant-based diet, at least for the first month. And in some ways, pairing that health scare and pairing the amount of travel that we've done around the world, what we realized was that this planet we need to look after. We're in the middle of a climate crisis, and we eat food every single day, and animal agriculture is a big factor in the climate crisis that we're in now. So if we can change consumer behavior and as a collective lead big collective change, then we're doing something good. But then pairing that, I guess, with some of the health aspects as well, I know firsthand for me, in changing my diet, I had more energy, my skin cleared up, I dropped a lot of weight, and I just felt better.
Yeah.
So I've kind of answered that in a really roundabout way, but for us, health is a centerpiece. The planet and sustainability is a centerpiece, and we know that a lot of people share that same value set, but sometimes we get so overwhelmed with how can we make a difference.
Sam, sorry to interrupt. I think that was one of our first conversations. I went through a similar, not a similar health scare, but I did go through a health scare. It was blood pressure related, and I came in. I was like, oh yeah, I was just in the hospital, and you're like, and you had this genuine care, and you were like, and you sat down. You're like, oh, you should consider doing this. You consider doing that, and I think that's why I wanted to really get at. It's like you're not just running a business, it seems, but you're also like, there's something behind it that you deeply care about. You do actually care about the health and well-being. And as a business owner myself, and a lot of the people watching are as well, I think you're right that often we put health second, third, fourth, behind running a business, when they can really be, together. It's not an either or, right? It's something that, in your business, you can do things to add health. Stu, were you going to say something there as well? Sorry.
No, I mean, yeah, and just like that's the reason why Flave was created. But I think also, we could have chosen just to stay on boards and doing investments, but we're only mid-30s now, so we've got a lot of energy and time, and want to build a lasting business and a bit of a business that could be a bit of our legacy. And not only through what are the products we're doing, the impact we're making on the world, but also the impact of the different stakeholders in the business as well. So bringing a lot of amazing people on the ride and giving them upside as well. So we've brought some not only amazing investors to the table, but also some amazing people and looking after them. And that's something that we really want to try and be pioneers in as well as we grow. So stay tuned for that.
I will be watching with interest. So as I was saying, on LinkedIn, you both have quite an extensive background in investing, capital raising, and working with small businesses. With that background and all those years of experience, did that affect the way you started Flave or any of the kind of decisions to date? You know, like as opposed to someone who's never started a business, and you would have been at that point at some point as well. You've never started a business before, and you just jump in, and you might make some of those mistakes that first business owners do. What's kind of been different about the startup Flave?
So I think with this one, there's two. So the experience of raising capital in the past, but also our experience in raising companies. So in running companies, because raising capital is easier when you have run companies before, because a lot of the time investors care about track record, not only the concept as well. Right. And so, knowing that we had a strong background, and we also brought some amazing board members around us to cover any weaknesses or gap fill any areas. We knew that would also help, would appeal to investors to be able to help us raise capital, to be able to hire the right talent to begin with, to be able to move forward faster and grow quickly. So whereas, back in my Zambrero days, is that we didn't raise any capital. We grew with just reinvesting capital reinvesting any profits back into the business, and we grew incredibly quickly, but not through any outside means. And I think if we had taken on a whole bunch more capital back then, the question would have been, would we have grown so quickly that we would have needed to hire somebody else in with more experience? Maybe. But now we knew that, I can run a restaurant, but there are people who are way better at running a restaurant than myself. Right. So hiring those people from the very beginning to get it right, to get better unit economics, so you can then raise money, move faster, grow, make a bigger impact, is something that we wanted to do by bringing on capital quickly.
Yeah.
Well, interestingly, I'm really good at eating at restaurants. So I think we have a good synergy there. Sorry, Sam.
My title is actually Chief Eating Officer. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Good. Sorry, Sam. I was cutting you off there.
I was going to say, for us, I feel like, especially watching you with your journey with Zambrero versus Flave now, again, both in hospitality, I feel like in some ways, by raising capital, you've almost got these rocket boosters attached to you. So you can find the best talent, you can move more quickly, and I guess you are investing in your growth. Yeah.
And you can make a lot of strategic decisions rather than tactical. So like a lot of the time when companies are underfunded, that they have to make a lot of little tactical decisions based around cash flow rather than strategically what is the right decision for the business then and there. Yeah,
and I think a lot of business owners would be hesitant. It could just be the fear of the unknown, of not knowing what a cap raise is like, and then obviously you're well aware of the pros of capital raising and using external funds and maximizing that. So I think that bit of the unknown there is probably a factor too.
And not be afraid of having external shareholders as well. Like I think a lot of people are afraid because they think that other shareholders are going to control you, and you just have to be prepared to not use the company as a slush fund for your own personal means. But as long as you're transparent, you've got a lot of people on your side who are all invested in your success because it is their success, so they can add their resources and networks to be able to help you. And that's what we wanted to do from the very beginning with Flave because of our global intentions.
Yeah, and I think what we were saying just before with having external investors, it makes it even more pertinent to have that core value alignment that we've continually come back to in this discussion, and having everyone aligned, it obviously makes it a little bit easier. Yeah, and then this is easy. So you just touched then on the fact that there is a global play here, and again, I think I've put myself back to when you're starting a business and being like, I just want to start in Bondi, like your first location, and that's maybe as far as the vision might go for some people and things like that. So launching and saying we're going to be global, it's great. Tell me a little bit about the decision making behind a global business as opposed to saying not even just local, but even Australia.
Oh, I think we want to take on the big giants. Come on, there's McDonald's on every corner. And the pressure that they put from an animal agriculture standpoint, the pressure they put on the planet, you can see that through scale, it makes a huge difference. So, my dream is to be, no matter where you are in the world, you have access to great tasting food that's good for you and good for the planet. And I think in some ways, yes, whilst we are starting in Bondi, we've been very, very deliberate with some aspects of the business, allowing us to be able to have that scale well and truly into the future. And part of that is, as we've already touched on, the ability to raise capital so that we can think about the long term, not just about the next step. Also, even with our menu development, we've been really strategic. Whilst we've got burgers, we know that translates really well into the West. Then when you come to bowls and warmer dishes, we know that that's more of a, I guess, comfort food through Asia and some parts of South America. So we've been really deliberate with the way that we've gone about building this business. But I think in the first instance, we just need to make sure we can prove the prototype, which is prove concept that it does work in Bondi.
And even starting in Bondi, like we were, when we originally came up with the idea of Flave, we were playing up with the idea whether or not to start this in Southern California, because the amount of capital that's available for restaurant concepts is there's a lot bigger appetite in the US in terms of the amount of capital you can raise as well as the valuations you can raise at. But we wanted to start it in Australia to be able to appeal to the US, to be able to appeal to Asia. Bondi in Australia is an amazing brand, not only for the cool factor, but also the product quality factor. So that's why I start in Bondi and from Bondi to the world.
Have there been any challenges thus far, if you're allowed to reveal, in the fact that you're going global? Has there already been like, crap, like, or anything like that could maybe help inspire and getting past that to some of the people that are thinking about global expansions and moves?
I think it's hard to, so I'll break that down a little bit. I mean, we are sitting here in August, like very end of August in 2021, just from a timestamp standpoint. So we open the restaurant in 8 weeks' time. So sitting here, it's fine to talk about global expansion, but as Sam said, we have to get the first one right. But one of the things that we have done from the beginning is, so one of our board members, she lives in Shanghai, and she was one of the bigwigs at Starbucks, and during her time there, she started when there was only, as a barista, when there was 50 locations in Seattle, and by the time she left, there was 17,500 locations, opening one a day in China. And
she was at the forefront of that.
Yeah.
In terms of and training and operations expansion.
Yeah. And our restaurant designer has just done a 500 store rollout of Taco Bell. And so from store optimization, we've used a local designer here, but then store optimization designer from the US. And so we've already got those people sort of spread out, already thinking about how would we go about documenting this to roll out one a day. But again, it's all fine to talk about until you've got the first few up and running and doing well.
And from what I'm hearing as well, it kind of touches back to the point you were making before about using people in your network and circle who can do things specific things better than yourself in certain areas, right? And it does sound like you've kind of already got that nailed at certain points or certain aspects.
Yeah, I kind of feel like in some ways, Stuart and our role is to almost be a conductor of an orchestra. I may not be a specialist in terms of how I can play the instrument as well, but we hope to be able to inspire other technicians to come join us on this wild, crazy journey and share in the success with them. We're certainly not shy in doing that, because again, as I said, we're nothing without our team. So if we can build something just as beautiful and as grand as what I can see it in my mind's eye, then that's part of the whole journey.
Yeah, I think in that metaphor, I would be a percussionist. That's it.
I'm the triangle.
Yeah, I back myself for that. So with you're creating something that that is, say, vegan burgers and things like that, but the way you're going about it is different, and within the food industry and at the scale that you want to go, it's innovative. And what I have found with companies that are innovative, a lot more of their marketing and even just resources and time kind of go into like market education. Not just sell and value pricing and all those kind of things, but it's about educating the market. Is that part of the strategy? How important is it? Sam? Is that, yeah?
It's very much, and it was fascinating when you look in hindsight as well, because Stu, if you think about Zambrero, before you had the Mexican wave, people didn't know necessarily what a burrito was. They knew what tacos were from the old school Old El Paso.
That's right.
You do your family kits at home. But I think previously you had to do some of that education. We're almost on the precipice of that here with plant-based food. I think there's this concept that plant-based food is boring, it's bland, it has no taste, and we're really here to act as myth busters and showcase how amazing plant-based food can actually taste. And there is a bit of I guess education in that standpoint, but our first point is to be able to introduce people to plant-based food, showcase how amazing it can be, and hopefully that will inspire people at home just to experiment a bit more with their food, incorporate it, have a bit of a meatless Monday or Future Friday, and just slowly dip your big toe in there and not be so overwhelmed by it, but rather inspired by it.
Yeah, well, one of our first conversations, again, going back a few months, Sam, was after I said I've been to the hospital, you said, just do it. You said exactly that. Why don't you just stop drinking whiskey for breakfast, just maybe towards after midday? And you're talking about incremental changes. And I think that's right. And you're absolutely right. If people did implement something like a meatless Monday, the flow-on effect of that would actually be huge, right, globally, to the climate and things like that. So
we're certainly not militant in our views. We want to create a safe space for people to experiment with their diet, and to really remove any of that judgment, because we're all on personal journeys. And if that means it's, one day a week for you or every day a week for you, that's your personal journey. And as long as we're here to be able to serve you with amazing food so that you at least have options, because I think that's the thing that stood out to us with our overseas travel, is that I couldn't find great tasting plant-based food on the run. So if we can fill that gap in the market, then we've done our job.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, so with Flave specifically, I know you were kind of just pre-launch. Is there a key message that you're trying to convey currently, whether it be education about Flave, just your mark, and be all right, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're achieving?
I think the biggest thing is we're a flavor-forward business that just happened to be plant-based.
Okay.
You won't see it in any of our marketing. It's just going to be all about flavor, and people are going to come in and just almost. We've had some people argue with us that we're actually serving the meat or different things, but we're not. And we've got an amazing chef, and I think it's also, you don't have to sacrifice quality or flavor or experience by going plant-based, or at least reducing your meat intake. And I think the other one as well is that it is possible to build amazing, successful companies by doing good in this world. Not only from a customer standpoint, from a stakeholder and a shareholder standpoint, but your team, as well as just being good people. I mean, that's our goal, is to be a very ambitious statement, but to be sort of at a showcase of how companies can be, in order to make a massive difference, be positive in the world, and still do incredibly well.
Yeah, and I love that. And so a couple of things that I'm taking away there. You're a flavor-focused company. It just happens to be plant-based. That's a really cool way of saying it. I really like that. And then putting forward that there is a greater purpose kind of behind basically everything we do, but also in business. And if that's aligned, and it kind of just helps.
And as a consumer as well, you have a lot more power than a lot of people realize. And so this is where we came about. We weren't plant-based or anywhere near it until Sam got sick. And so I think we awoke as consumers during that time, and you start to understand the impact of food on your body and the environment. But also, I think it's the same thing for consumers. They're starting to wake up and realize that their buying decisions are actually making an impact on the planet. And so by doing that, it's starting to ask a bit more of companies and questions of where things come from, and how they impact the environment. It's going to be really, really important for us to make sure that this world stays healthy and becomes healthier in time. So
it's about empowering that collective impact.
Yeah,
I think you're right in the sense that sometimes we think, oh, well, what difference would my personal, choice at Woolies make? And you're saying it does, and the more that a lot more people do, there's a lot more things that we can affect and things like that. So that is a good message. So open date, you said 2 weeks. Is that with what roughly?
No, 8 weeks.
Not 2 weeks.
8 weeks.
about
2 months. 2 months is what I'm saying. 8 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
58 days.
58 days. So it looked like you just kind of looked at a calendar. Do you have like a calendar with how you're marking off?
We have a calendar.
Yeah.
We write days till opening of Flave.
So we're in the fridge that we have here. I remember you were waiting to open a Magnum champagne based on the signing of the lease, which happened during the Magnum's still there, right? In the sense that, but you have.
We took it away last week because we knew you were still at the offices.
You know that.
So I shouldn't have warned you first.
No, it'll be on opening. It's going to be on opening because there's also been some. We're going to write an epic book. There is an amazing book in the making. Just to also let you know of what happened yesterday. So we've got a piece of it. So not only is stainless steel and building prices gone up by 15 to 20% because of everything going on in the world, of course, one of our piece of equipment is delayed by 10 to 14 weeks because there is a massive hack with in one of the largest equipment suppliers in the world, and a ransom being demanded of hackers of about $100 to $200 million, and the FBI is involved. Throw that on the list.
Good. FBI. So are they contacting you to verify your purchase order?
No, but it does. There is a lot of things at the moment where you just have to roll with the punches and be there, especially with COVID. But there is a lot of people out there who are doing it far tougher than us. The people who are already open, the people who have had to go through this over the last year or two, and heart goes out to them. But hopefully the COVID lockdown ends soon and we can open with perfect timing going into an amazing Bondi summer. Very
good. Sam, Stuart, I want to thank you so much for your time. It's been a great discussion. I can't wait personally to go to Flave and to taste it, the flavor-focused food, and to hear everything it is. I'm so stoked for you guys on the opening, and I can't wait to see how far you will go.
Thank you so much, Noel. This has been so much fun. We're really, really excited to share some of our journey with you. So thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you so much. To everyone else, thank you so much for joining another episode of Love Your Business. We'll redirect you to the Flave website below. Remember not to look if you're starving, but please support your local business and check out Flave when it's open. Thank you, everyone.